Hi there and welcome back. Welcome to Rob's channel. And we've got some roadworks going on outside, sort of that way and that way. So it could get a little bit kind of busy with the background noise. So apologies for that. It's just the council doing council things, which is all good. Or highway maintenance or whatever it is. So hiya, yeah, how you doing? Today I thought I'd talk about something that people ask me about at gigs, both drummers and non-drummers, and members of the general public who are just the music listeners who like to come along and see gigs or watch clips and so on and so forth. So I get things in my PMs and DMs and all the DM, PM things and emails about this. And it's basically, sorry, I'm getting some messages coming through, talking about traditional grip. Now, this seems to be a hot topic, as Alan Partridge would say, on the internet every now and again. It sort of raises its head and becomes a thing that a lot of people want to talk about on their channels and so on and so forth. And it's like trad grip versus match grip and all this kind of stuff. And generally, I don't get involved in it because, generally for me, I think whatever grip you use, if you're making a good sound and you're playing well and you're making music and the drums sound good and feel good, and you're not doing yourself any damage with your posture or what's happening with the hands, if it's sort of working, then I think you're doing something right. Maybe that's a bit too liberal. I know there's certain drummers online and drum teachers that are very kind of heavy on this, and maybe I should be too. But that's kind of how I feel about that. When people come for lessons, obviously I correct things or show them different ways where they can correct little issues they might have with, as I say, posture and, stool height and things like that. But getting back to the sticks, if they play trad grip or match grip, whichever one they use, I will kind of say, look, you can maybe try this. You might get a bit more, give your hands more chance to play accents or grace notes if you do this, this and this. And you might not get problems with your wrists and your arms if you do this, this and this. So obviously I tackle these things and I have my own thoughts on it. But generally, the whole which one's better, matched or traditional, to me it's just not important. It's a non-musical thing that, people get kind of thumbnails with pictures, saying, oh, which is the best, what do they call that, clickbait or something? And I think people get dragged in and, that's a thing, that's entertaining. You might be on the bus or wherever, or on a break from work or whatever you're doing and just click on it for a bit of a giggle and watch it. And there might be some interesting points, blah, blah, blah. But I tend, as I say, to stay away from that. As long as the grip works, I think it's fine. And as far as my traditional grip story, it was because my dad was a jazz drummer back in the day and he started me off playing that way. It wasn't because I thought it was cool or trendy or I wanted to become a sort of jazz drummer or whatever. It just was the grip that he started me with. Obviously on top of the pops, I saw other drummers, plenty of other drummers in the late 70s, early 80s playing match grip all the time. And I obviously fell in love with like Ringo Starr's drumming with the Beatles in 1980 or just afterwards when Lennon was shot, So the minute John Lennon was shot, it was all Beatle-tastic all over the media and the news and on TV. So I suddenly saw Ringo and fell in love with that. So, and obviously at the same time, I'm being influenced by my dad. I'd only been playing 2 years then. And I would have only had like one of the old Premier slanted practice pads that look like a door wedge, and a Premier 251, would it have been Pedal 251 or 250? It was the one with the rubber footboard and the green posts. I loved it, but that's the only things that I actually had to play. But I'd look at the album covers that my dad owned of different jazz drummers and I'd see they played traditional grip, and then I found Ian Pace a bit later that played to me like a jazz drummer but used match grip. And very early on, to me it was like, it's not important, I really don't care. At school, it was a bit of a thing. I'd go along to drum club and wind band, and all the drummers would play match grip, and I'd be there with traditional, and I'd get ribbed for it occasionally, you know. And even now, I won't go through all the terms that I've heard used for the grip, but some of them are, question your sort of sexual orientation, shall we say. You hear all sorts of things. And again, I don't get in the game, like that clickbait thing, I don't get in the game of trying to, because another thing is, you know, you see people playing traditional grip, and sometimes I agree, they can seem a bit snobby about it. You know, it's all very highfalutin, you know, stuff of, oh yes, well this, in other words, it feels like they're saying, if this is the grip, if you don't do this grip and you play jazz or something, then you're not a jazz drummer. And yet you see someone like Bill Stewart play match grip, or Brian Blade sometimes, two of the finest, you know, US jazz drummers over the last 30 years, play match grip, and it's just amazing. And can they do all that jazz comping and everything they need to do? Yes. Can they both switch to traditional? Yes. But, you know, sometimes the musical statement they want to make is with the match grip, and that's their choice. So, you know, I could get into that snobby kind of area, but I don't, and it makes no difference to me. And at the same time, going back to what I said about Top of the Pops in the 70s and 80s, I also saw Stuart Copeland with the Police, you know, cranking it out on the snare drum, on those Tama snare drums with his traditional grip, coming right up. And I know that you only put the stick through, you know, so really we should put the stick through both fingers. But he did this thing where he went just through the first finger, which is kind of different, but hey, if it works, it works. And likewise, looking at a match grip player, I don't sort of go, oh, you know, you only play match grip. At the end of the day, it's like, come on, you know, life is short. If you've got a great technique, whatever grip you use, then, you know, that to me is more musically important, and for your drumming and for the music that you're about to make. It all comes down to that. So, you know, I was over there a second ago, just trying to cover all the bases of this great debate and the pros and the cons. So a thing I will mention then, you know, because I've just thought of it, is some of my students have said, when I've given them maybe a little look at the trad grip, or they've watched some things online, they've sort of said when they are playing something like jazz or maybe some lighter, you know, contemporary music, that when they've gone to the trad grip, they feel like they've got a bit more kind of scope with the dynamic for some reason. Now, I've played traditional grip for so long, I can't even remember what it was like when I didn't. But I can kind of understand what they mean. Something about, you know, the way the hand works with the wrist going up and down like this for matched, and then going a different way for the trad grip is a slightly different motion. I could kind of see what that's about, but again, that's a good thing, you know. So if you're doing like a cover band gig, the next tune might be Teen Spirit, in which case you go back to match grip and start pounding it out. You know, that proves to me that they're all tools for the trade. The trade is playing drums, and these are the tools that we need to play it. So if you're out there thinking, oh, I'd like to learn traditional grip, then I think you should. There's plenty of different things online. You know, I'm putting up my laptop here. There's plenty of things online you could check out. Also, you could come to a teacher, someone like me. Obviously, I offer online lessons and face-to-face lessons. And, you know, we can go through the traditional grip. And like anything, once you get into a certain style, genre, or idea, there's lots of things within that. You can't just think, oh, there's one way of doing it. With the traditional grip, I've got my way of playing it, which, you know, as I said, stems from my dad, but it's got certain things that I've seen sort of Buddy Rich do. And I remember a long time ago when I first joined, actually it was just before I joined DW Drums, which would have been 2012. I was still with Sonor, who I've been with 10, 12, maybe 15 years. I can never remember, certainly more than 10 years. And I went over to the Drum Channel, and Don Lombardi had lots of really good content. And I went over there to perform as a teacher, you know, as a tutor, a pro player that wanted to do some lessons on the Drum Channel. And I got interviewed by Kurt Bisquera as well, who's lovely. He was great. He interviewed me, and I played along to a Susie track and did 2 or 3 solos and also some lessons that were part of a lesson pack. And that was a hell of an experience. And through doing that with Don, I fell in love with DW drums, and DW drums definitely could easily replace what I wasn't getting with Sonor. It was a done deal, really. But yeah, he was talking about my traditional grip, because he's a trad grip player as well. And there were certain things that I'd done that he was convinced that I must have seen from like Freddie Gruber or Buddy Rich or someone. And I was like, well, I probably saw it on Buddy videos, but it was my dad that showed me this thing. And in a second, I'll have to move the camera angle, because this isn't the right angle to do pad work, really, unless I put the pad here, which is going to be a bit weird. But I set the pad up, and I'll just talk through a few of the things that I think are important for the trad grip that I use. But there's other drummers you could watch where the trad grip, the grip is slightly lower, and at a different angle. Maybe the elbow comes out in a different way. And, you know, as I said at the start, if it works for you and it works for them, well, firstly, if it works for them and you're watching them, you think, oh, I might try this with my elbow or my hand or my thumb coming back up to my shoulder or whatever this thing, or slightly lower down or whatever. You should give it a go to see if it works for you, because there could be certain elements that do. And I always go back to the Jim Chapin video that I had that's still kicking around somewhere, that's now obviously on YouTube, easily findable. And he was saying that, and he was one of the greatest technicians, wasn't he? Let's face it, a master of the grip, whether it be matched or traditional. He just knew what he was talking about and could demonstrate it very, very well. He came up with loads of points on this video that I loved, because I was really into my sort of school and college teaching at the time. And, you know, these questions of grip and what's better. And I've seen someone do it this way, and it's like, oh, I wish there was just, sometimes you think, I wish there was just one universal way of doing it, because then it'd be so easy. But that's the beauty of all of this thing that you know, that we've been talking about, that, you know, the little movement in the finger or in the thumb or the wrist or the arm or the elbow and your posture, every little bit is different. So everyone does it slightly differently, which, you know, makes it fun. But sometimes as a teacher, it could be a bit like, oh, especially now there's so much on the internet for people to watch. But he was saying, you know, that he said, this is the way I play it, and I've shown you the pros and the cons of why this works, and I've broken everything down. But, you know, if you find that your thumb needs to come up a bit more for you, because your fingers and, you know, your hand isn't the same size as mine, or your fingers might be longer, shorter, fatter, thinner, whatever, you know, then you'll have to find a way of moving around that idea. And it's not a bad thing, you know, you can't be me, I can't be you. So make these ideas work for you. And again, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. And I took, not great solace, but I just thought that was a great way of putting it. And throughout all that video, he's forever, even though he's clearly demonstrating it works that way, he's always saying, but you might need to do this, you might need to do that. And I think that sometimes is missing a little bit in some of the sort of online teaching stuff these days, but that's another thing. Okay, so I'll come back to this in a minute. I'll set a pad up and we'll just talk about some of these grips and some of the things that I do that makes or what I feel the trad grip, how it works for me, and the benefits of this, and I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so here I am with my Bill Sanders practice pad, and you may have seen that I've got a brush pad version of this, which is the white one, and it's slightly bigger than this. And I've also got the bigger snare drum version of this, and of course the very small, hello, I am here, is Headless Rob for the next few minutes. And I've also got the smaller version here. And I've got an even smaller one, which is a travel version, which is maybe, I don't know how many inches, to a couple of inches. It's really small, but these are great pads. I really love them. They're really great. I take that in my suitcase when I'm on tour. And this one I use on all my YouTube videos when I'm here at home, just messing about and tip-tapping around when I'm doing my little YouTube shorts. And they just feel great. Okay, so even as I'm playing and I stop there, even though I grab my right stick, my thumbnail is sort of facing my shoulder, my left shoulder. Now, this is something that my father taught me to do, and since I found out it's quite an Americanism thing to do with the traditional grip. Now, some people might play here, which means my thumbnail's facing over this way this time. That's okay, still play that way. Some people play even lower. Now, the thumbnail's facing right over there, which is fine. But mine always comes up to here, which some people find it's a bit of an acute angle, if that's the term. But you know what, it really works for me. So if I'm playing like a groove, you know, so obviously I'd be here with a hi-hat or here with a ride, but I'll play it here. I can get a backbeat by my elbow comes out slightly, comes back in, and as it comes back in, I throw my wrist out, so I get this kind of whipping motion, like this, which means I can also play faster strokes. It facilitates that. And it also means, as I say, I can get a fat backbeat, but I can also play quite delicately this way. Because some people have said, oh, do I need to get closer to the drum? Again, if that works for you, great, but that's too low for me. That already feels like I need it back here again with this position where the thumbnail is facing my shoulder. And even though you think, oh, that's how he got that massive crack or all those faster strokes, but hey, I can still play quiet this way. And there's my road sweeper friend outside again. Okay, so whenever I stop, it just naturally comes back in this position. Now, my dad was a sergeant major of drumming, but he certainly made me sort of aware of a few things. So this is how, that road sweeper, man, that's mental. So this is how I can get all my different strokes. Buzzes, you know, again, the thumbnail is still facing this way. I don't have to sort of come down here to push down to get a buzz. I can still get my buzzes from here. So when I'm playing my rolls, it's the same thing. Or if I'm playing single strokes, doubles, in paradiddles obviously, and things like that, drags, flams, you know, as I say, if I'm doing that kind of thing, it comes from the same place. The elbow doesn't move as much. I'll micromanage that movement, which started here, this sort of swung that motion. And I don't teach molar technique or any of the smash and grab techniques or any of that. I kind of a bit more old school, that if it works and I do it naturally, then it works. And as I said, Don Lombardi said, oh, you've got that thing, which a lot of UK drummers don't do. And I was like, do I? I really don't know. And that's not being, oh, really? Shucks. Thanks for that. Just me being honest, I don't know. I just use what feels good. And it's crazy, whatever I'm doing, I always come back to that position where the thumb is here. And as far as the motion goes, I don't really sort of come up here. This works for me and you're watching this, so you're watching how I do it. I'm not saying this is the only way or the best way. It's just ways that you might be able to use some of this in your playing. So yeah, so that's kind of my theory about the trad grip. Yeah, so that's kind of my little thesis about it, and I should look there because that's where the camera is. It is very kind of, you know, I didn't really sort of spend a lot of time thinking about where I'll set the camera up and where I'll do it. Like most of these things, they're very of the moment. And just lately, as I say, I've been watching a lot of those clickbait kind of things and, you know, various sort of pros and cons, and the internet is open for all the input. And I'm certainly, oh, more messages. I'm certainly not passing comment on anyone's. This isn't a pick on anybody or a sounding anyone out or whatever. This isn't. It's just kind of, I thought, well, I should put my take on it. And the fact that I use traditional grip, whether I'm, you know, doing a jazz gig with Art Thiemann, you know, or Nigel Price or Jason Rebello or any of the sort of people like I sit in with at various jazz clubs, or whether I'm playing with Lorena McKinnett or really smashing it out with Susie Sue. It's the same kind of technique. It's just that I've learned to kind of temper it to different things that I need it to do. So anyway, I'll hand you back to me. Okay, now I've just realized there's a really nice light in this room today. Yeah, it's kind of funky. It's kind of sunny-ish here. Actually, there's blue skies, nice, almost like a Simpsons blue sky with a few big clouds in it, very nice. And yeah, so there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that. As I say, it's not really a tutorial, it's just kind of, you know, breaking down some of the myths and some of the clickbait, just from my point of view of what this whole thing is. You know, I will go to match grip myself at times if you see me play with various artists and on the stage with like Lorena McKinnett maybe, or Susie, or some of my videos where I'm recording or doing my little YouTube shorts and Instagram things, you might see me go into match grip. And for me, it's a question, it's a choice. You know, sometimes I could be tracking a song, and I've done it with trad grip a few times, and it's fine, you know, nothing wrong with it, that those takes could work. But when I'm listening back in the control room, I'm thinking, and I can't tell you why this happens actually, because I'm doing the job and it's all good and I could shut up and just go home and get my money and it's all fine. But sometimes I'll say, can I just go again, but I want to play with match grip? And they'll go, why? And for me, it's because not that the takes before that I recorded could have been techie and, you know, showing off technique, you know, it could be none of that. But for some reason, I just want to try it again with match grip. So I'll have to say to the engineer, look, sorry, man, you have to move the snare drum so it's angled up a bit. You have to move the mics top and bottom, or if there's one on the side of the drum as well, which I love doing. You have to move it because it's slightly different grip, because obviously from trad grip where the snare is slightly sloped, and I don't sort of angle it as much as I used to these days because I'm not rim shotting on a lot of the projects I'm doing at the moment, which means at some point I'm going to have to practice doing slightly more acute angle and doing my rim shots again, because I know someone's bound to come up where I need that on every backbeat, you know, and I've probably lost out to do it for a while, you know, I've forgotten. Yeah, so then I'll record it again with match grip, and what it does, I always say to people, it gives me, you know, Rob A with trad grip, I've got all the chops there, I've got, you know, the flow on everything with my trad grip because I'm so used to it. So any little thing I want to add to it or not, I can just do. Whereas with match grip, I haven't got all that facility with me because I don't practice a lot with matched. So I could do a few grace notes, I can do buzz strokes, you know, I can still get around the kit okay, but because I'm playing that way, it kind of, and here they come, I think they're road sweeping now by the sound of it. Probably get rid of all the mud and stuff like that. Yeah, you get a Rob B, you know, who hasn't got that, oh, I could just do this if I wanted to, or I could just do that, or, oh, that's a good idea. It's more like, no, I've got to fix with what I can do in this grip. And it sounds like it's sort of a little bit restricting, but that's the point. As I say, that's the point. It makes me think in a very different way. So every now and again, I'll do that on something, a project, and I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment, but I have done it on a lot of stuff. And I actually started with Charlie Jones, who I've talked about a few times, who's like my sort of musical godfather. He always gets me great gigs, great sessions. He gets me involved in a lot of things and has been really, you know, he's knowing him and his friendship, he's been brilliant for me in many different ways, not just career ways. And yeah, he started me doing it. And at first, this was many years ago, like 20 years ago, and I sort of took offense a little bit. I was a bit like, you know, I was in a different space, you know, ego-wise as well. So it was like, oh, how dare you say that about, you know, though I didn't say that, but it felt like, oh, I'm having a bit of a pop, you know, at me for that. And he wasn't at all. And I could see why. He was saying what I now know is that it gives me a different version of your take on that track. So if I want one that's a bit more busy and can have those moments, if he wants it, then he's got that. And then this, like the other version, as I say, you know, letter B Rob, is different again. And it's kind of just holding on to the wreckage. Not quite, but he's just holding on to the groove. Doesn't want to do many things because he knows it's not his forte, that grip. So he's just going to play a really deep groove, and it just gives you a different vibe. So maybe you should try that. Maybe going, if you play trad grip a little bit, and if you don't, come and get some lessons. Yeah, try doing one or the other. Maybe not a gig, but a band rehearsal or something. Give it a go, because it just might give you that little nuance and a different sort of outlook, so you can be another version of yourself, if that makes sense. Okay, I'll fold it up there. If you have any questions and any comments on trad, match grip, you know, for or against, you know, benefits and so on, or you really don't like one or the other, or you're snobbish about one or the other, you know, put them down in the comments, because that's good to get the whole thing flowing, the comments flowing, and get a two-way thing going. And if you've got some ideas of your trad grip that you use from the ones I showed that I like to use and benefit me, put them in the comments below as well, because someone else might see that and say, bit of Rob's is all right, bit of Buddy's is all right, bit of Tommy Igo's is all right, bit of so-and-so's is all right, but this is my thing, because I'm going to do this. And that's what it's all about. So, as ever, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and share, because, you know, you only get one chance in this skin, in this world. So let's make it good for all of us. So share the love. If you're interested in lessons, please get in touch. I'll put the email here. Is that going to work? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. My God, they're going mad out here with these road sweeping, cleaning things. Insane. They must be thinking, Rob's on a video, let's do it now. Okay, so yeah, like, share, subscribe, leave comments, get involved. If you want to contact me for lessons, as I was saying before I got put off by the road sweepers, yeah, write to me there, or you can DM me on my Instagram, Rob Bryan Drummer, or on my Facebook, Robert Bryan. You'll find me, drummer. I can't think what that one is. Anyway, but yeah, have a great day. What day is it? It's a Thursday. Have a great Thursday. Take care. Oh my God, sounds like they're coming in the house. Have a great day, and yeah, keep drumming and keep tradding and matching, and I'll see you soon.